Hello fellow doll lovers, it's Janie. Welcome to another video on my channel. I am very excited about today's video because I have been wanting to do a video like this for quite a while, and I am finally going to sit down and do it. And I think this will be a very helpful video for you guys, and a lot of people have requested this, so I am very excited about that as well. But I'm going to do a video, sort of a tutorial video on how to safely use a flat iron on your doll's hair. Now this is going to kind of be in a series of sort of tutorial how to do videos, where I'm going to show you guys things about like how to use a curling iron on your doll's hair, and also how to use a flat iron to curl your doll's hair, and also how to use straws to curl doll hair and things like that. But I am very, very excited about this, and is mainly, a lot of people are very scared to use flat irons and like heat styling tools on doll hair because they're afraid of like melting the doll's hair and ruining the doll. So they either have to be sort of dissatisfied with the way their doll's hair looks, or they just scrap the doll and they think that the doll is not salvageable. But I have seen so many dolls where I thought that their hair could not be fixed, and after using a flat iron, especially a flat iron, they look like a brand new doll, and it's just amazing. But if you don't do it right, you can melt doll hair, you can do things like that. But I'm going to show you guys how to flat iron doll hair, and I'm going to be showing you on a doll that I have that is really terrible. I have this large Rapunzel here who has some really matted and dreadlocked hair, like it's really, really stuck. And I know that her hair will be a lot better even after I wash it and I clean it and I make sure that it looks okay. But it will look so much better with a flat iron. And before I begin, I do want to talk to you guys about something that's very important to know before you guys use a flat iron on your doll's hair. But you need to know whether your doll has Kanekalon hair, whether it has saran hair, or whether it has nylon hair. Nylon hair is these are all hair made, it's obviously synthetic fibers. Doll hair is made from synthetic fibers, and each of them have different sort of textures and respond to heat differently. Kanekalon is the very fine kind of fluffy hair that you see on a lot of like 90s Barbies, things like that, and that responds to heat, and it is the most sensitive to heat. You cannot use a flat iron on Kanekalon hair, otherwise you will melt it. It doesn't matter how low of a heat setting that you use, you will still melt the hair because it is very fine, and it is very, very the way it responds to heat, it is very easily responsive. Saran hair is what you see on most Barbie dolls. Nowadays they're using nylon for a lot of Barbies, but saran hair is on a lot of the Barbies from the like 2010 era, and it's also the hair that is on most Monster High and Ever After High dolls. And that is my favorite type of doll hair. It is the glossiest, it is the sleekest, it feels the most like regular hair in my opinion, and it also gets damaged. It's the hardest to get super damaged, and it's the easiest to sort of fix. And you can use flat irons on that, but it has to be on a very, very low heat setting. And also, a lot of times you will not need to use a flat iron on saran hair, or heat styling on saran hair. So I will not be showing you with that one because it's not really one that you need to use heat styling products and tools on. And nylon is the last one, and that is this hair fiber. It is the densest, it's the thickest, it feels the most coarse, and dolls that have nylon hair are like a lot of the Disney store Disney dolls. A lot of Moxie girls have nylon hair. Some Bratz have saran, but a lot of them have nylon as well. Winx dolls have nylon. A lot of dolls like that aren't Barbie have nylon hair, and those are the ones that Rainbow High has really high grade nylon. It's a different kind of fiber, but it is still technically nylon. Rainbow High. But nylon is the type of hair that I use heat styling tools on the most because it gets very sort of knotted up, and when you brush it out, it gets very stuck in that sort of kind of kinked out texture. So it is the one that needs to be heat styled the most. So before you begin flat ironing your doll, you need to know what type of hair your doll has, because if you try it on Kanekalon, you will melt the hair, you will ruin the doll's hair. Saran, you can, if you would like if the hair is really, really damaged and you're really trying to make it better, you can, but it has to be on a very low heat setting. And then nylon is like the toughest and the most durable, and has the lowest response to heat. And in case you're wondering, how does using heat sort of help the doll, and will the hairstyle stay? That is the main question. So the style will stay because if you apply heat to a synthetic fiber, it is bringing the hair back to its original texture, and you are using a flattening iron or a curling iron, and you are sort of redirecting that texture to kind of mold it to what you want it to be. But essentially with using the heat, you are permanently resetting the texture of the hair. You're kind of starting and bringing it down to square one, and you're resetting its natural texture. So that's why using it works on hair like that, because it's a plastic, it's a synthetic fiber, and you're applying heat to it and you're making it malleable, and then by guiding it into the texture that you want it and letting it set that way, it's going to be that way for the rest of the time. Obviously, if you set something on it, or if it gets messed up somehow in storage or on display, it can sort of mess it up. But it is, especially with nylon hair, it is very hard to, especially if it's straightened, it's very hard to sort of mess it up. If it is curled, it will settle a little bit, unless you use very, very small strands of hair. But and I will explain how to curl hair more in another video, but the smaller strands of hair you use, the tighter the curls will be and the better they'll stay, just as with your own hair. But I'm going to show you how to just straighten today in this video with this doll, and I'm going to take you through and tell you how to do it, what setting to put it on, how big of sections to take, just essentially everything you need to know to get the desired result. And just so you know, I did learn this over time, and I have found methods that work for me. If you try this and it doesn't work for you, and you mess around and you find your own way, that is the best way. It doesn't have to be exactly the way I do it. This is just the way that I found that works for me. So if you follow along, I hope that this is beneficial to you, and I hope that you're able to save many a doll with this video, because you're able to sort of be able to safely do it. But to get into the video, I'll stop rambling now that I've said everything I need to say, and I'm going to talk to you about how to do it. She does not have, her hair's not been cleaned, and her hair is completely dry. I start out with clean hair, and I also start out with the hair damp, not dripping wet, but pretty damp. Otherwise you will melt the hair if it's not damp. Which is kind of counterintuitive, I know, because you don't want any moisture in your hair. Like if you have human hair and you use heat styling, you don't want it to be damp at all, because it will fry the hair. That is the opposite with dolls with nylon hair, or if you're flat ironing saran hair as well. But I'm going to go ahead and give this doll a wash and clean out and brush her hair thoroughly, and I'm going to do it the exact same way I always do, where I'm going to scrub her with dish soap and baking soda, and then I'm going to shampoo her hair a second time after I rinse that out, and then I will put conditioner in her hair, saturate her hair with conditioner, and then while the conditioner is still in, I will brush the hair out and then rinse the conditioner, and I will give you guys a view of me doing that, and then after that we can go ahead and get into has been washed, and it's actually the next day because I didn't have time to do this right after that. So her hair is completely dry, and as you can see, there's still a lot of it's not quite as tangled, I can brush through it with my fingers, but it just doesn't look as nice as it could. And so that is what flat ironing is for. And I'm just gonna go ahead before I show you how to do it. I'm gonna show you guys the things that you're gonna need. You'll obviously need your flat iron, which I have here on this towel. And I like to do this on my bed and put the doll just between my legs so that I can have like a nice anchor so that she doesn't go anywhere while I'm doing things with her. So I like to have a towel just because you are going to be using a spray bottle and you don't want to get your legs all wet. So I have a towel on my lap. I have the doll between my legs just because that's what I found that works for me. I have my flat iron, of course, and then you have your spray bottle, and you're gonna need, you don't just use it to wet the hair and then you're done. You use it throughout the entire process. So you wanna make sure it has a decent amount of water in it. Mine's not quite all the way full, but you probably won't need more than this. If you do, you can always refill it. And then you need a comb for obviously making sure that the hair is nice and smooth. I like to use one that has a like a rat tail comb, and also the finer the teeth of the comb, the smoother the result will be. So I like to choose like a pretty fine tooth comb, also with a rat tail, just for you so that you can get a good grip. And then also scissors. These are just hair cutting scissors. They're very old and they're not very sharp anymore, but they are meant for cutting hair. And this is what I use for my dolls. And then you can use two things because you are going to be sectioning off the hair. You can use either a claw clip. I have this one right here just to section the hair, or you can use a small elastic. And I'll show you both versions. But before you even start flat ironing, you want to section off the hair. So what I like to do is I like to use just the section on the bottom, just a few of these sort of lines of hair. Like if you get closer, you can sort of see like where the lines of the hair are. I like to go just, depending on how bad the hair is, that's sort of how large the sections are. But I like to go and section off just below the ears. So I'll show you what that looks like in just a second. And if you keep it neat, it'll be easier for you to sort of keep track of what you're doing. So that's why you kind of want to be precise with it. You don't have to be. I just like to be a little bit more precise with exactly my sectioning that I'm going to be doing. So you can kind of find like the rows of the hair, the way it's rooted, and sort of use that as your guide for how much you're going to be flat ironing. I have it about like this. So from ear to ear, and just the sort of a few, like the first couple of rows on the bottom, because her hair does have a lot that needs to be done. And then with the rest of the hair, this is when you can either, you just need it out of the way. You can just leave it like this, but if you really want to make it secure, you can either clip it out of the way like so, which is pretty easy, or if you don't have a clip or you want to use something else, you can use your clear elastic and just sort of put it around the hair once, just to sort of hold it out of the way. And that's kind of what I like to do. So you have your first section here, as you guys can see. And for the heat setting, I have a flat iron. It is a Conair flat iron. I've had it for a couple of years. It works really well. You want one where you can sort of change the heat setting. Mine has multiple settings. And I like to do it on the second to lowest setting, which is 302 degrees Fahrenheit. I found that 266 is a little bit too low for nylon hair, and it doesn't get it as smooth and sleek as it could be, but also bumping it up to 338 definitely melts the hair. So anything above this you don't want to use, and sometimes this can get a little hot. You just have to watch it. And if you have a flat iron that looks different than this, any flat iron will do, but a really great way to sort of test what heat you need to have it on is to take a test strand. And I like to pick like the tiniest strand, not all the way at the bottom, because then if it's short, it kind of sticks out, but like kind of maybe in the middle of like the top part of the section that you just took, like a super small section like this, not very large at all. This is how you test it. You'll want to wet it down just like this. And you'll do this to all of the hair. I'm just sort of showing you with the test strand. You want to use the comb to make sure that there are no tangles or anything, and that you pull it as straight and smooth as possible. You don't want to apply a ton of pressure. You don't want to yank on it. You just want to make sure that it's stretched flat. And then you just take your flat iron and you start at the root and you pinch it. You don't have to pinch too hard, just firmly. And then you just drag it down. If it makes a sizzling sound, that is okay. It's okay for it to do that, and if it doesn't cause the hair to sort of ball up on top of itself, then it works. and that is the heat that you should be having it on. If it doesn't really do anything and it doesn't quite work, then you can up the heat a little bit. But that's just a good way to test it. And it can be an even smaller strand than this, just so that you can be super, super safe. And of course, if it doesn't work, it's too hot and it melts the hair, you can just cut off the hair and it's gone, and it's sort of hidden amongst the hair so you can't tell. So I always recommend, if you're learning how to do this, doing a test strand first, or if you're using a new flat iron and you don't quite know how it's gonna work, then you will wanna test it out. But what you're gonna do, I have my first section, you're gonna wanna spray it down with your spray bottle. And it doesn't have to be wet, but it does need to be pretty damp, not dripping, because then that will damage the flat iron. And then you just wanna start brushing it through. And as you can see, even though I did brush it out with the conditioner in it, it's still quite tangled. And you only want to do this section by section because this does take a while. And I found that if you spray down even all of this, then by the time you get to it, it's already started to dry. So I like to just wet it section by section, and then you kind of just start working through the hair with the comb. As you can see, there is some shedding that happens. That's totally normal. Their doll has more than enough hair. But what you want to do is you want to take a pretty small section. It can be from either one side or the other. I like to start on the right side. And you want to take a section, depending on how bad the hair is, that's about the size of the section you want to take. I will probably start with a section sort of about like this much compared to the rest of the hair. This is how much. And you can't really, the smaller you go, honestly, the better the result will be, especially if the hair is kind of damaged like this. And as you can see, the ends just are not very smooth. They're very frizzy and they're very dry looking. So now that it's damp and you've brushed it out and it's really nice and smooth, and you want to make sure that there aren't any like dangling hairs like this, you hold it and you take your flat iron. I want to make sure that the cord isn't in the hair, and you start at the root like I said, and you just slowly drag down. And if it sizzles, that is okay. And as you can see, there's already like a huge difference. And if you see a little bit of steam, as long as it's not like smoke from the flat iron, it will be okay. But one pass has already done a lot. And if there's still moisture in the hair, like the hair is still slightly damp, you can do another pass. But you always want to brush out the hair in between passes just so you can get as sleek as possible. But the hair's pretty much dry now, so I want to spray it down again. Not dripping, but still pretty damp. Just so that you can do a little, like a few more passes without it being dripping, which will ruin the flat iron. But it already looks so much better. But you brush it out once again, and you sort of make sure that it's held out nice and smooth. You start at the root and you just slowly drag down, which I don't know if you guys can tell from camera, but it's a huge difference. Now you guys can take a look at the ends and you can see the sort of shine on it. It's just so much nicer now. And you can do as many passes as you want until you're satisfied with the result. There's really not a limit to how much you can do because it's on a low enough heat setting that you won't burn the hair. You just want to make sure that you're brushing it out in between, and that you're spraying it to make sure that it's damp enough. And then once you're satisfied with it, you can sort of move on to the next one. And if the ends just are so bad that they just won't go straight no matter how many times you do it, then either try even smaller sections, and if you've already done that, then you can always just do a quick little trim. But that's the first section. And the way I sort of keep the sections separate from each other is I kind of just like lift up the doll and tuck the section like between my legs with the doll, and it kind of keeps it out of the way. You can use another hair tie or a clip or whatever, but this is how I like to do it. And then I will go ahead and show you one more section. It's pretty straightforward from this point out. And you just want to keep taking section by section in sort of like horizontal patterns until you have no hair left. But I will show you another section. You just want to make sure that it's completely brushed out. That will give you a much, I think this is a little too much hair still. I'm going to take a little bit out. Want to make sure that you've got it as smooth as possible, sort of like fans out like this. You can start this at the ends instead of at the root just because the ends are more damaged. So if you need to, you can always sort of start near the bottom just to sort of focus it on the ends before you go from the root, just so that the roots are a little bit fixed. And you want to make sure that if it's starting to feel too dry, you once again re-wet it, and always comb in between. And then you just start from the roots and gently and kind of slowly pull down. You don't want to really zip down it because it won't do anything. And then you want to keep the movement going. You don't want to just let it sit on the hair because that can damage the hair if you let it like sit for too long and if you don't slide it fast enough. But you also don't really want to zip down it. But that is what you do. I'm going to spray it again because it was feeling a little dry. And if you hear sizzling, like I said, it is normal just as long as it's not, the water is not dripping, because then it'll seep into obviously the flat iron. But sizzling is normal. And if you get down towards the ends, you want to go a little bit more slowly just so that the ends can sort of be straightened with a little bit more force. That's totally okay too. But you don't want to slide it super fast, like I said, because that won't really do anything. But just want to keep it on going. And then, as you guys can see, it looks super, super nice. I'm going to do just one more pass because I really like to make sure that everything is super smooth. And then I will get to the end of this section and I will show you how to do the next section. And it's essentially the same thing, but I will show you guys how I like to sort of take the following sections and also how to trim the remaining split ends. But as you can see, it already looks so different. Like if I put these two together, it brushes through so nicely. It feels like brand new and it's so incredibly shiny, and the ends are super straight and they aren't frizzed out at all. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of this section, and then I will show you guys how to sort of trim the ends before moving on to the next one, and then also how to section the next one. Okay, so here is the first section done, and it looks very, very nice. As you can see, it's so much more sleek and smooth compared to this mess up here. It's still a little bit damp because it sort of helps with the next step, but now that it's finished, what I like to do is to make sure it's all combed out. And I don't know if you guys can see, but at the ends, there are just a few sort of pieces that are kind of trailing at the end. So after I do each section, I just like to point cut just the very ends, just to skim the ends and see and make it a little bit more even. There's not much to it. All you kind of have to do is make sure everything's all combed out, make sure you've got the whole section in your hands. I like to kind of pinch it between my fingers. And you sort of find the ends and you kind of just cut them off. You want to do it at like sort of a diagonal so that you aren't cutting off too much. And like I said, I'm like not even taking any length off. I'm just cutting off those sort of longer trailing hairs that you see. Because then if you do that for every section, then when you brush it all out, it's going to look a lot smoother, and there's going to be a lot less split ends, and it's going to look a lot more uniform. So I literally didn't take any length off. I just cut off those long hairs, like I said. And if there's still a few more, you can kind of just continue to just snip those away. You don't want to take off any length, like I said. But once you finish that, you can take your section and sort of put that hair to the side. And then you want to take your next section, your new one. So you take your hair out of the elastic, save the elastic because you're going to use it again. And once again, I want to make this pretty precise just because I find that it's sort of easier to keep everything smooth and sort of neat and uniform, so you can just sort of find the wefts of hair or like the lines, the dotted lines where the hair is rooted in, and just sort of make sure that it's all sort of even. And I kind of want to take this to just around like the temple of the doll. So you start sort of at the temple and you make sort of just like a line across. So I will give you a closer look, and then you want to obviously take the hair that you're not going to be doing right away and take that elastic or that clip or whatever you're using and just pull it through to make sure it's out of the way. So here's the section that I took. It's about the same amount of hair as before, and you just want to do the exact same steps. So you make sure that it's all brushed out, and then you wet it down, not so that it's dripping once again, but just enough to really coat the hair and make sure that it's all damp. You make sure it's all brushed out and smooth. You take your little sections and then you just go to town, and you do that for the whole entire head all the way across. And after every section, you make sure it's all combed out and you skim the ends. And then I will show you guys the finished result. And then one extra bonus step that I like to do on all of my dolls to make their hair even more shiny and smooth and pretty. All right, you guys. Sorry for the change of lighting. I know that it's very different now, but that is because the sun has now completely gone down. I started this at about 6 o'clock, and it's now just after 8. So this did take me about 2 hours, but she is a bigger doll, has much more hair, and it was very damaged. But I have finished the last of the flat ironing. I'm just gonna give one more little trim right there. And I've trimmed all the layers as I did them and everything. And this is one bonus step that makes it look even better. But if you guys can see, it just looks so much better. It looks smooth, it looks shiny, it's frizz-free, I can comb my fingers through it. It just looks leagues better from the one it did before, and this even by itself would be amazing, but this is just an extra thing that I like to do to my doll's hair. And I do this even for dolls I don't flat iron. I do it for all of my dolls, but the hair is a little damp. I'm just gonna make it a little bit more so I'm gonna take my spray bottle and make sure that all the rest of it is evenly coated so it's not just residually damp. I'm just gonna make sure that all of the parts of the hair are damp, and I'm gonna comb it out just to make sure it's all evenly distributed, all the moisture. Oh, that looks so nice. It's very, very soft and smooth now. And if there are little stray hairs that kind of are out, you can literally just pull them out because they slide out really easily in most cases. And those are just sort of hairs that are a little bit damaged and didn't get straightened all the way. But now that the hair it's pretty wet now. It's more wet than what you would do if you flat ironed it. But now what I do is I take a mixture of gel and some water in a spray bottle, and it's all like mixed together, and it's literally just a little bit of gel. Like I would probably fill it up to about here, maybe about here, of gel, and then the rest is just water. And I just coat the hair in it. Not a ton, like you don't need to go crazy because you don't want the hair to be sticky, but you can do a pretty generous amount and just kind of coat the hair in this gel mixture. And make sure you get it everywhere, not just on the top layer. Just make sure you get it everywhere, and then you just comb it through one more time. And what this does is it sort of just helps keep the hair from getting fluffy and frizzy, and it also adds some shine. So now that that is done, all that she needs is to just dry, for her hair to dry, and I will show you guys the finished product. But yeah, that is how you flat iron doll hair. I hope this is a helpful tutorial, but you guys can see the finished product in just a minute. Finished results. I don't know if you guys can see, but it looks so shiny and smooth. I really would like for it to focus, but it looks really nice. As you guys can see, there's like a huge difference to how it looks from before. I absolutely am so happy with it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. It's all nice and dry now. It's so incredibly sleek. There we go. You guys can kind of see that better, but it looks amazing. And I hope that this was a helpful video to you guys. If you want to have more tutorials like this, let me know. I am going to do one on how to curl your hair with the dolls, with both straws and with flat iron and with a curler. So stay tuned for that. And I will see you guys then. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.